Joining us now on Sports Talk ATL, a man with some of the strongest opinions on why Arthur Smith should not have been let go. Obviously, we know he is now fired. Mark Zinno, thank you so much for joining us.
Guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I quickly went from one of the most hated and stupidest people in Atlanta to one of the more loved ones for my questions in the press conference yesterday. So I feel like I redeemed myself a little bit.
So that was you pressing him. That was you pressing him.
Yeah, that was me asking why Terry Fontenot wasn't in the building.
That is something. Hell, we can lead off with that because I do want to get your opinions on kind of how you're feeling now that the axe has been thrown at Arthur Smith. But that was something that I actually typed it up. It'll be up on the site. Go check it out at sportstalkatl.com. But where the hell was Terry Fontenot yesterday? I mean, I've never seen a situation where first of all, is he a ghost? I haven't seen him for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. All the job security, all the stuff. There's been no answers for him. He doesn't even show up to the press conference. He's apparently too busy. What was all that about? What are your opinions on that?
I mean, look, I have been to easily a dozen fired coach press conferences throughout my media career over nearly the last 20 years. It's the first one I've ever seen where the GM was not in the room for this conversation. Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever it may be, it's the first one I've ever seen where the general manager, the person who holds the title of general manager, was not in the room. And so that to me was questionable. And in all of my bluster of defending Arthur Smith, and one of the things I said before he was actually fired was that, if you're going to fire Arthur Smith, and to a certain extent you have to fire Terry Fontenot because their failures are the same. Like everything was a group decision. Like there's no way to separate the decision to go with Ritter from only Arthur Smith to not Terry Fontenot, right? Because that was a decision they made together. And people responded to me, well, Terry Fontenot didn't hire Arthur Smith. Well, that's interesting. Well, if that's really the case, and oh, by the way, cleared up yesterday, that wasn't the case. But, again, you're not going to have the GM in this press conference and he's not going to hire the second head coach. So what is his actual job? Like, honestly, and I put this out on Twitter, Terry Fontenot is the most neutered GM in all of professional football. He's essentially, and I don't say this disrespectfully, but there's no difference if he doesn't have hiring and firing capabilities. And that was part of my question to Rich McKay and Arthur Blank yesterday. If he doesn't have hiring and firing capabilities, if he doesn't have that management role, he's essentially a glorified scout and personnel director with a title that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, that's just what it boils down to. And I really thought the Falcons, for as much as it's really hard to lose a press conference where all you did was fire the coach that pretty much the entire fan base unequivocally wanted fired, it's hard for you to lose that press conference, and they did yesterday. They lost it on several accounts. Most of all, the optics. And for an organization that is so optics focused, that worries so much about what people say, that has rabbit ears that could reach the satellite Sputnik, the idea that they could not optically see how flawed it was to not have Terry Fontenot in that room is just, it's beyond me. Like, and I felt like there was a little bit of damage control trying to be done. I mean, he was with other coaches and the families and everything else. This wasn't a natural disaster. Like, there wasn't a hurricane. Nobody lost a home. There wasn't a flood. Like, you have a staff of 50, 60 people working that could have easily took care of the families. Like, even if you would have said that Terry is currently working with the search firm as we speak to look for candidates, that would have been a better answer than he's consulting. What is he, a grief counselor? Like, I don't understand what title he actually has. And again, this is not about Terry. I respect Terry. I've had several interactions with him. I think he's a very nice man. We've talked football a little bit here and there. I think he's really good at what he does when it comes to player personnel. But objectively, when the fan base and people in general think of a sports team general manager, that comes with a lot of specific job duties that we all associate with that clearly they told us yesterday he doesn't have. And between the press release that they gave out and him not being there yesterday, they clipped his nuts publicly in front of the entire city, in front of the entire fan base. And I don't understand why. Again, for an organization that's so based on optics, that made no sense to me. Like, it would have even made better sense even if Fontenot wasn't sitting at a table, for him to be standing in the back of the room to at least be part of the whole thing. Like he had some say in the whole deal. Like he was able to at least, concur and be part of it. But when he's not there, you're sending a major message. And the fact that they don't get it. And from what I understand, and I didn't hear it, so I could be wrong on this, but Rich McKay was on Dukes and Bell yesterday after the press conference and said, we were completely surprised to get that many questions about Terry Fontenot. How?
That just shows you where this organization is at. I mean, that's just cluelessness. And I did have a problem. Obviously, you did. Everybody did. Immediately, it was, where's Terry Fontenot? There's 2 chairs up there. Everybody knew it was going to be McKay and blank. Everybody probably assumed there would be a 3rd chair for Fontenot. And my biggest problem wasn't even the fact that he wasn't there. It's to what you mentioned. It's the fact of the excuse of why he wasn't there. You're telling me you can't delegate the logistical responsibilities of getting everybody out of the building? That's absolutely Bush League. I mean, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. He's the general manager of a franchise, and he's got to be doing the nitty gritty of logistics.
Yeah,
that's
Alex,
a joke.
The other thing too is, and again, I'll just draw on my military experience here, right? Like, because there were some conversations with some people who tried to, after the fact, tried to kind of massage where Terry was and what he was doing, his responsibilities. And they asked me, well, how many people have you commanded? And I said over 1,500 at one point. Okay, so when something happened, where were you? I'm like, with my troops. But that's not the case here. Like, when there is a major announcement for the unit, when there is something major going on, it is me and my sergeant major, the 2 heads of the organization, side by side, unified front, explaining what is going on to everybody. Because that's where the leadership is supposed to be. That's how you lead, out in front. And optics matter because, again, if optically losing 48-17 was something that got him fired, then optically you should understand that the GM should need to be there.
So I got a question, and it's all about that. So Terry Fontenot, I agree with you all. It seems like he's neutered. It seems like, do you think this is something that he signed up for? Like, it seems like 2 years ago.
Theory? You want my conspiracy theory?
What?
My conspiracy theory is this, and I have nothing to back this up. Just mark thinking. Terry Fontenot did not want Arthur Smith fired. He absolutely did not want him fired. And when they went to him and told him that was the plan, it was get on board or you're gone too. That was that's my conspiracy theory of how it went down. Because Terry Fontenot, I do know, believes in Arthur Smith, and they believe what they built. And again, another tip of the hand by the Falcons to sit there and applaud the players for still supporting the coach, and then you openly going out and firing a guy that and this isn't just like players speaking out, saying, we liked Arthur. They were, if you were ever in that locker room, they all to a man believed in Arthur Smith and bought in 100% everything. And the Falcons announced that at the press conference yesterday and still fired the man anyway. So I don't know, who was in on this and who wasn't, but clearly I don't think Terry Fontenot wanted him fired, and they were not going to put him out there to be in a position where he might have indicated that he didn't want Arthur Smith fired, and Terry Fontenot was going to look like the man of dissension in the room. That's just my conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
If it wasn't clear before,
I want to end this segment because we do have to go to break, because I do want to talk about the 2 guys that do appear to be in charge, which is Rich McKay and Arthur Blank, which is, I think we'll all agree when we talk about this next segment, it has to be the worst possible thing for the Falcons. It just seems like these 2 are inseparable and they keep making bad decisions. We are going to discuss it after the break.